Hey guys, welcome to Disenthrall. Today we're going to have probably a longer hangout.
I'm sorry.
He's like, yeah, you're
Really
right.
low. So one confirmation is how strong of a, should I give you my car after one? If you bought my car with Bitcoin?
I would wait for 3 transactions for a car.
3 is, okay, 3 for a car.
But it just, yeah. I mean, 99.9%. I mean, it's nearly impossible. It would be a pretty big feat to pull that off after after one transaction.
Okay, so that was pretty easy.
So that was it.
You basically scanned a QR code, typed in a number, and hit send.
There we go.
And it took like 5 seconds for me to get a text message saying it was that
Yeah,
I
that could have been anywhere in the world. You could have been in Africa, India.
So how is Bitcoin affecting, or can it affect, like third world regions?
Yeah, I think it have a huge impact. So I think the numbers are 6 billion people that don't have access to traditional banking systems. And for those type of people, it's a huge opportunity to kind of leapfrog into the modern economy by being able to tap into a worldwide payment network that otherwise won't happen for decades to come, most likely.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for the money.
Because, I mean, like,
Anytime.
the cost of the infrastructure is probably pretty small because, as they've proven, like, people who don't even have, like, a stable source of water, they have phones.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely nuts.
With a little solar panel for power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all the infrastructure they need to, like, send and receive Bitcoin.
And that's one of my favorite quotes. I listen to Andreas Antonopoulos a lot. And
Yeah.
he kind of described it as they're at an advantage because they're starting as fast as technology is changing. They have no infrastructure that they have to upgrade, and they can kind of just leapfrog us. We have all these brick and mortar banks
Yep.
with parking lots and all these resources. And they can build it up from nothing with all these new systems.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we all our vending machines and stuff accept dollar bills and
Yeah.
you have card sliders and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
That's nice.
So now let's talk about like the dark side of Bitcoin and what kind of initially was starting to give it a bad name. And let's also talk about any downsides that we can think of to, like using Bitcoin. I know that there was Silk Road was a big thing. There's without getting into an entirely separate deep technical discussion, there's a way to surf hidden secret websites online and get to those websites that traffic in what has been deemed by the government illegal goods and services. And the currency of choice on these websites is Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I think Silk Road, the only payment option was Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where a lot of the early news in Bitcoin, because Silk Road is making a lot of headlines, so that's where people kind of first heard about it. And
that was the most recent headline too. Wasn't there a much earlier sort of darknet website where untoward things were going on?
Before Silk Road, involving Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Not that I remember. Do you guys remember any?
No. All I remember is the whole Mt. Gox controversy.
Ooh, we should talk. Yeah, that's a downside to Bitcoin too. Yeah, we should talk about that.
Oh, that was just.
That plays into the bank idea. It was basically a bank failure.
Yeah.
And while that was a horrible incident,
so Mt. Gox was like Coinbase in that they hold your gold, right? All right. Can you tell us what happened?
So things started getting a little fuzzy. So that was an exchange. It was basically the first exchange that helped make Bitcoin go mainstream because that was really the first place it had a price. Before then, it was just people trading it to each other, and there was no central place, no central market to really determine the price. And I think when it first went online, it was worth about 4 cents for each coin. But what ultimately things started going a little weird there. The price Eventually, there was 5 or 6 different exchanges, and the price across all the exchanges was pretty much consistent, except the Mt. Gox one was like 20% high. So you could start to tell something was wrong, but what eventually came out is that it was either an inside job or a great hack, but they lost all their Bitcoins, and to hide it, they kind of started manipulating their books and manipulating the price to try to keep the thing going on and recover So they just kept getting more and more desperate, and eventually they had to just come clean. And they admitted that they were hacked or stole themselves a bunch of their Bitcoin, so they were insolvent.
Wow.
It was like millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin?
Like hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions of dollars, yeah.
So
what's the total like market cap? What's the total amount in US dollars of Bitcoin right now?
I think it's 5 or 6 billion.
Wow, really?
The Zero Block app shows that.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let me.
Market cap 6.32 billion.
Wow. Let me.
The Pentagon could lose that in just a couple hours.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's chump change. But that is true. It is. That does sound like a lot of money, but in the scheme of things, in the scheme of the world economy, it's basically nothing. And that's why, like, industrial level investors can't really touch it because it's so small compared to the money they deal in.
Yeah.
Okay. So, are there any other downsides that we can think of for Bitcoin that we should talk about? Like if my mom was like, "Hey, I want some Bitcoins," would there be any other reasons I might say, "Hey, you might want to not do that, Mom"?
Well, we mentioned competition with other digital currencies.
Okay.
And I guess kind of the future of Bitcoin. Like how certain is that?
Yeah.
So, let's approach it from that angle. So, what do you not like about Bitcoin now that you would change in version 2 or in a different coin that might take over in the future?
Yeah, that's a common criticism because I've heard people say, well, what makes Bitcoin special? I could just start up a new coin if anyone can make one. And right now there's probably thousands of coins right now. And what Bitcoin's advantage is right now is just its network, is that it's out in front of the other ones. Right. It has more hashing power, which is the amount of miners. So the network is secure by how many people are using it. But sure, I think at any time someone could develop a better one, and that's a risk to Bitcoin is someone can develop one that's more secure, has more privacy or anonymity. And there could be some quick or slow transfer to that one. So that's something to be aware of. A cool one is if you check out Dash, I think it was previously called Darkcoin, but that uses different...
Darkcoin. Is that the one that was developed? And that was one of the ones I wanted to bring up as other coins that other people have made. The guy that made the Ghost Gunner, which is the 3D printer for assault rifle lowers, he also was the guy that did the first 3D printable handgun.
Yeah.
I thought that his next project was some sort of anonymized cryptocurrency.
He was making Dark Wallet, which was...
okay.
That one, I think... connected to Bitcoin, but it constantly shuffled the coins, so it would kind of delete the trace of which coins you had because it kind of just would make them constantly shuffled.
So he wasn't making his own currency.
No, I think he was making. It was called Dark Wallet.
Got it. I'm gonna have to.
You're talking about the guy from Austin. I can't think. of his name.
Yeah, I can't think of his name either.
Cody
Wilson.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, so he was making Dark Wallet. I'm not sure whatever came of that, but Dark Coin was a completely different coin, and I think it's called Dash now. But the difference in that, the way I heard it described is kind of cool, is so where Bitcoin, all the information is made public and transmitted to the ledger, where there was some other use of cryptography where somehow only people involved in the transaction knew if the transaction was good or bad. So you basically, without showing your keys or showing as much information, you can prove to someone else that you had the correct keys. And the example that someone gave, which I thought this was kind of cool, is it was basically picture everyone is colorblind, and I have two balls, like a red and a green one, but you're colorblind. But so without letting you see these colors, I want to prove to you that I'm not colorblind and therefore have the keys. So you take the balls, you put them behind your back, and you either switch them or not, like 1,000 times. And you show me the balls, you know whether you switch them or not, but you still can't see the colors. So then you ask me, did I switch them or not? And you can, sorry for the bad example.
That's great.
But it's just a way of, that just is an example of how you can, that I can prove to you that I have this knowledge without giving you any, with retaining most knowledge myself. So you keep showing me these balls.
Right.
And
showing you my balls.
I was waiting for it. So I think it's pretty widely known now, especially after Silk Road, that the FBI has mostly put together a great deal of the owners of the various keys of Bitcoin, the various pieces of Bitcoin. So in a lot of ways, Bitcoin is less anonymous today than it was a couple of years back, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, Bitcoin itself is the same. There's no connection to a human, but as they track and get more information, sure, they could start tying more and more Bitcoins or start knowing where they are.
Yeah, so I'm sure that they've invested a large amount of resources into de-anonymizing the blockchain, right? And finding out who owns what and who spends what on what, right?
Sure.
Do you think that's changed how people use Bitcoin or the...
Not yet. I think one fear is that what could happen is an entity like the FBI could start categorizing certain coins as dirty coins. And that goes back into the fungibility issue of, for a currency to be successful, ideally you want all the coins to be completely equal. But
so what was
people might get nervous of like a tainted drug coin that was known to be on Silk Road for a while. A retailer might say, oh, I don't want that coin.
Don't want a drug coin. Interesting.
So then that could start, those coins might be worth less or
that would be wild. So it was fungible, divisible, scarce,
and durable, I think.
Durable?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Those are the four things. So what's next? Do you think there's going to... I really don't personally believe, especially because of the privacy concerns of Bitcoin, that the technology has arrived yet. Like I feel in a lot of ways I'm just waiting on the next cryptocurrency to appear, and that's probably the one I'll get heavily invested in. What are your thoughts on that? Like, are there better currencies in existence now or that are being developed now?
Yeah, I think the comparison is we're at the point where the internet was in 94, 95. Things are so young. No one knows what direction it's going to go. So anything could change. Bitcoin could be around forever. It might get overtaken by another one. There's definitely a lot of features that could be improved, but maybe Bitcoin will adapt and be the one that's around in 20 years. You never know.
So how would Bitcoin adapt? Can you tell me no one owns it, but
right.
I mean, without ownership, how do we collaborate? So
the nodes and the miners, as they set up around the world, they can choose what version of the code to run. So it's somewhat of a democracy in that someone can propose. There's two ways it can change. For the point of this discussion, a hard fork or a soft fork. So a hard fork requires you have to go out there and convince X amount of the miners to switch to this new code. And it's an all or nothing thing. It either happens or it doesn't. A soft fork is you can just kind of insert small changes and then they slowly kind of get incorporated if people like them. But
so if I wanted to add a feature like, I don't know, some kind of explicit home purchasing, selling escrow system into Bitcoin, I could grab the code, I could make my changes, adding that functionality into the Bitcoin blockchain. Maybe I'm not speaking accurately, but hopefully you get the point. And I could either just try and convince all the nodes out there to accept my code or my changes, which would be what you would call a soft fork. No, that's the hard fork. If everybody just decides to use my software, and the moment that the majority starts using my software, then the blockchain follows that path.
Yeah, so a hard fork just means that the changes are significant enough that it can't exist at the same time with the old version.
Okay.
So it's an all or nothing thing. They have to completely go to your sign or to your code. And the thing that's interesting though is that people don't have to switch. So even if 90% of people went to your code, those 10% could just stay doing what they're doing and be stubborn and transact among themselves. And at that point, you'd have two coins. You'd have
two different types of coins.
Two types of coins, yeah.
So it'd be like Bitcoin Patrick and normal Bitcoin at that point. Okay.
So even if you wanted to just fork your own version of Bitcoin and the four of us could mine it and that coin would be viable, it certainly wouldn't be anywhere near as powerful or as secure as the current Bitcoin network, but it would still occur.
So that sounds like the troublemaker's way of making change. Like what would be like the correct or the proper or maybe the more useful way of adding a feature or
so the core developers, they meet and they have meetings.
Who decides what core developers are?
That's a good question.
To be fair to him, I told him to come prepared to talk about the basics.
I think so. There's a group of people that interact with each other. I don't know if there's any official thing. I think the core developers just have a certain level of knowledge. Anyone could propose it. I could post anywhere, here's the change I want to make, and I could spend a year developing a new version, and I could propose to develop it because it's open source, so anyone can develop it.
So is it a situation where they're just kind of open and willing to make dynamic change to improve Bitcoin, or is it a situation where they are maybe extremely resistant to change? I don't know how does that...
That's kind of, people are accusing the core developers of the current version of Bitcoin is called core, and that's where this new set of people started developing the classic, which has more change. It was, some people say that is too different from the original code, and they don't want to make that big of a jump.
Because they don't trust it, or?
Yeah, because the problem is that if you do things too fast, someone could sneak something in there that made it vulnerable to an attack, or there wouldn't be enough time for people to vet through and see that it's secure and accept the changes. So people are fearful of that.
Got it.
But yeah, there is criticism that the core people are moving too slowly and not making changes fast enough.
Okay. So do you have any idea on like what the next coin will be? Do you have any ones that exist now or that are being developed that might be better, or what do you think about that?
There's also, like I mentioned, I think there's thousands of coins. The Dash is a big one because of the privacy. I think it's called Potcoin, which is traded for because a lot of like marijuana dispensaries are having trouble getting banks. Mm-hmm. Someone created a Potcoin. There's all sorts of ideas. People have tried to make coins that are pegged to gold or to the dollar.
Why would you peg a crypto coin to the dollar? What? Okay.
We didn't bring that up whenever we were talking about banks, because whenever all the Colorado legalized weed, all these dispensaries didn't have a place to store their money because the federally insured banks couldn't accept the money. So they had to do two things. They had to find a place to put their money, and they had to hire security teams because
they had to drive around with cash.
They're going around with large bags of cash.
Right.
So it was a big pain in the ass. So I mean, like, if they were taking all their payments in Bitcoin, that would have saved them a lot of hassle. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a perfect match.
Yeah. It's like it goes together really well.
Yeah.
Also, I was looking up. I was right before about how Kim.com was thinking about developing his own cryptocurrency, which is, if there's any like good example, it's him, because after the whole mega upload thing went down, they did end up freezing all of his assets, and he just straight up ran out of money and was like, okay, fine, let's do this. Let's boogie, let's go to court. Extradite me. I'm out of money.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, are you, well, I mean, you don't have to divulge any private information, obviously, but I mean, do you own any altcoins? Altcoins are coins that are not Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. I bought a few Litecoins
Litecoins
a couple years ago when I think they're about $50. Now they're
$200 or $2. Oh, okay.
So now they're worth a few pennies.
So you don't really mess with altcoins?
I don't mess with them too much. I think Ripple is different. It's more of a payment network. I think I own some of them, but not like a couple bucks worth.
So there's no serious altcoins going on right now, is what I'm hearing then.
No, there's some ones that have decent market caps in the billions, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, let's look it up.
We can talk about those maybe in another episode.
Okay.
But
no, yeah, there's some of them have been rising quickly. I can't even think of the names of them, but.
And wouldn't it make sense to like go out and put $10 in every single altcoin?
Yeah.
So if one of them blows up,
I think that's a good idea. I know a lot of people who do that.
Oh, really? Okay.
It can be a lot of time. And
yeah.
It takes a lot of time to keep up with them because they change so fast.
Got it. We can edit out the gaps in talking, so don't worry about it. I was going to talk about transition, but we already kind of did that. Transition to another coin. I don't know. Do you want to say anything about that?
We kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
I said
okay.
how it could happen faster. So.
We covered how to acquire them anonymously now, right?
Yeah.
We already talked about that.
Volatility.
Well, and not in the extreme circumstance.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Edward Snowden person.
Let's do that. Yeah. So one of the videos I've been working to put together behind the scenes that I haven't really told anybody about yet is I'm attempting to put together a full tutorial on how to create a computer that is that provides a level of security you would want if you were a person like Snowden attempting to disseminate, information that might make you a target. I'm not building it for that express purpose. I'm building it more as a proof of concept to show exactly how difficult it would be, or how difficult it is to truly be anonymous on the internet. Like, it is not a trivial task by any means to get yourself on a secure level enough to where you can, have a reasonable expectation that you're not being monitored, or if you are being monitored, that communication can't be associated back to you. So that's kind of a pet project of mine that I've been working on. And when I've started, when I got 2 hours in, I realized, oh my God, this is going to be an insane process that I will have to, we're talking, multiple virtual machines running inside of a VMware host, running different layers of VPNs, in and out of Tor. There's an insane amount of work that you have to do to really start getting to where you're anonymous online. And so all of that is kind of hand in hand with Bitcoin, because a lot of the things that you need to do as part of that process is purchase access to overseas or offshore VPNs with Bitcoin, because that's really the only way to anonymously purchase a VPN. So now I also have to figure out, how do I get in and out of Bitcoin perfectly anonymously? And so that involves an entire separate process. So maybe for another day we can talk about it. But if you have any thoughts on how to acquire Bitcoin anonymously, and I mean Snowden level anonymity, what would you do? And you might not have an answer for that.
Yeah, the best thing I would do is, Snowden level anonymity is pretty high, but
right.
If you got on the internet completely securely through Tor VPN, you should be able to create a local Bitcoins account, and then you could make an anonymous transaction with them where you'd show up with cash. And facilitate a Bitcoin transaction that way. So and it would fund your account that you presumably created through your secure connection on local Bitcoins.
So how would you? Is there a site that lets you meet up with people to?
Yeah, localbitcoins.com. That's a cool site.
Can you tell us about that? Yeah,
so I think it's somewhere in Europe. It was started early on. That was one of the best ways to get in before there was a more mature ecosystem. You can do it both ways. You can put up an ad if you have Bitcoins you're willing to sell. You can set your price. You can set as complicated of a formula as you want based on exchange price plus a markup, however you want to do it. So you can either set a buy or sell offer on there, and people can contact you to try to do a deal, and then you can look at their ratings, see how reputable they are, and then pick a public place to meet and
so that's kind of it sounds like Craigslist or something like that, right? Where
it's a lot more structured than Craigslist, because this site actually walks you through the whole deal, and they hold the Bitcoins for the deal and are basically like
they escrow the Bitcoin.
They escrow it. It's really cool. So the person, if you're selling me Bitcoins, I show up with cash, and then think about how this works. There's a secret code that when I hand you the cash, I'm having a brain fart.
We can do a separate episode on it. Anyway, so there's a cool website where you can go ahead.
I was just saying I see a problem with that where you have to create an account with that website to begin with.
Right, so that's why you'd have to do it through the secure connection that he made. So you can make it completely anonymously.
But one level through Tor is not.
That's a separate discussion too. But okay,
if you've accomplished your secure internet thing that you're confident enough, that's as good as you can get.
Yeah. That's a prerequisite. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But why wouldn't you just go to a vending machine?
That's the same thing. It's basically.
Yeah.
Well, if let me play a government spy for a moment, right? So, a large drug purchase just happened with Bitcoins.
Okay.
I'm going to trace those Bitcoins back to where I saw them originate. Let's assume, I think it's a reasonable assumption that I can get them back to that ATM, right? I think that's a reasonable assumption. I can tell that those Bitcoins were at one point sourced from that ATM. Then it would just be a search back through the traffic cameras to see what cars were driven in the area that day. And then I could cross-reference that with FedEx shipments or, anything. So that's why I wouldn't, like, for a Snowden, and this is Snowden level. I mean, obviously this is ultra paranoid that we're talking about now, but, if I was Snowden, I wouldn't buy them from an ATM, personally.
Yeah.
So
Maybe you could find someone online who would accept a gift card, and you could anonymously drop it in the mail. You'd have to trust them, and then once they receive it, they could send you Bitcoins.
Cool.
So you can anonymously create wallets, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to give out any personal information when you get a wallet.
No, you don't even have to be on the internet. You can it's just a random set of numbers. So you can make it on an offline computer that's never been connected to the internet.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But then you have to connect to spend them.
Yeah, but they can also, if you're purchasing Bitcoin from someone, like you said before, you can write down an address that includes the amount that they're giving you, right? And just keep that piece of paper. And it's like, this is equal to this many Bitcoin, and keep it until you want to use it, right?
Yeah, you can keep it offline.
Cold storage or something?
Cold storage. So that just means the private key has never touched the internet.
Okay.
So that someone would have to be in the room, take a picture of it, or steal your piece of paper.
Cool. All right. Well, sorry we got a little nerdy there again. But are you good? Do you have any questions?
I think I don't know if I'm clear on what we've talked about, but
We got crazy.
all right, I got it.
I think we failed at our goal of a newbie tutorial.
Yeah, whatever. I was kind of curious. I mean, kind of off topic, I guess. Like you're in part of a local Bitcoin group.
Yes.
So what is there to talk about on a regular basis?
So it's the crowd varies greatly. So there's, I think, 500 people on the Dallas Bitcoin Meetup group. And those vary from experts that know 10 times more than me to a person who just heard about Bitcoin last night in the Wall Street Journal. Mm-hmm. And we just go over news. We'll help people use it. We've had speakers. We had Charlie Shrem. We've had Eric Voorhees. We've had a couple people join via Google Hangout. We've had some cool discussions with them. But we just tried to keep up on the news. Kind of with Bitcoin being such a internet phenomenon, it's kind of cool to meet other people that use it and are familiar with it in person, and just chat about the news.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it varies from like people that are into Bitcoin for the technical aspect, and then for like the trading aspect, or trying to trade on the margin or whatever and stuff like that. So it varies in that way too.
Absolutely, yeah. People have different backgrounds. Some people are interested from the financial side. Some people from the computer. Trading,
or just are trying to store their money in some form.
Yeah,
too.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that or got some useful information out of it. I think we will love to have Will back on in the future to talk more about maybe some future developments as they come. I love these conversations, and I would also like to incorporate some kind of Bitcoin stuff into my project that I was talking about. I think that would be a useful thing. So thanks for watching. You're good? Anything else?
I'm good.
It's kind of a long hangout, but I think there's some good stuff in there.
Definitely. Yeah. It's good stuff.
All right.
We'll have to have Jeff back too if he has some like basic questions on Bitcoin.
Or when the game's done.
So thanks for watching. See you soon. That was gay.
That was gay. No, this is gay. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.